Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez. We have a very special guest today, Mr. Grant Stinchfield from NRATV. Thanks for being here, Grant.
Thank you. I like being called special. That's nice of you.
Yes, very special guest of the program. All right, Stu, what is the top story for you?
You never call me special.
I don't.
Never.
It's because you're not.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, that's a good reason. One of the worst pieces of media malpractice I've ever seen is going on right now, and it's remarkable, even in today's society.
That's what I was going to say. That is a high bar.
Yes.
It's a really high bar. All right, Pat.
Not only is there that going on, but there's a lot of dehumanizing going on, and it needs to stop.
Okay.
It needs to stop.
Okay. All right. A lot to get into there. Kind of a mystery there. Grant.
Have you noticed the Democrats running for president hate firearms, hate guns, and hate gun owners? I'm dubbing it the Disarmament primary, and we'll tell you why it matters.
All right. A lot to get into there. Obviously, first we want to thank our sponsor, American Financing. If you are looking for a home, you're going to need, a home loan or maybe just a refi. Maybe you just had a really ugly divorce and you need to get your ex-spouse off of your home. I don't know what the case may be, but the point is American Financing is the place to go when you need to do something like that. They are salary-based, not commission-based. So they are in it to help you. They're not in it to get some sort of a kickback from, one of the financial institutions. They are truly there to get you the best deal possible. Stu, I know, had an experience with them where they really walked you through all of the different options. It's confusing.
It is impossible. Yeah, no one knows what they're doing. They're just a bunch of paperwork you're signing, and you're signing away your life most of the time. You want to have someone that you can actually trust. American Financing.
So you can go to AmericanFinancing.net, or you can call 800-906-2440. All right, Stu, this is a really, really high bar.
This is a high bar, but I think I can clear it here with this one, and it's about Alex Jones. Now, I do not like Alex Jones at all. I think he's awful in every way, and I think
Wait, what?
Yeah, I know this is going to be shocking.
What?
It's controversial.
Wow, where is this coming from?
I know, it's really, I know. He is, he's done a lot of damage, I think. He's, from everything from the 9/11 conspiracy theories all the way up to what he's done now with the Sandy Hook stuff. And these families, I've said this before, but it's hard for me to find a crime that hits you more emotionally than Sandy Hook. Mm-hmm. This has nothing to do, we've talked about this a million times, it's got nothing to do with what the media wants to make it about. They want to make it about restricting your Second Amendment rights, which is ridiculous. But it is a horrifically terrifying and an awful crime, especially because of who was, the victims, the first graders. It's just horrible. Mm-hmm. And so this sort of conspiracy factory went into operation afterwards, in which they start saying that it didn't happen, that these were crisis actors, like the same stuff they say about everything. As we've always said about Alex Jones, there's no such thing as a regular flag. They're all false flags to Alex Jones. There's never been a flag. And so this is it was a real thing. These parents have gone through hell more than once because, of course, now we have the conspiracy theorists harassing them, going to their town. They've written books. They just won a big judgment against someone who wrote a book saying that Sandy Hook didn't happen. So none of this stuff is defendable. Alex Jones is, the worst. However, the media is giving a good challenge here because of this story that's going on. He is currently being sued about the Sandy Hook situation. And so here are the headlines from all over the media, and you'll notice some names on here that should supposedly be much better, right? Raw Story, they're going to write whatever headline they want to write. Right. But the New York Times is on here, BuzzFeed, USA Today, Wall Street Journal, and all of them pretty much say the same thing. Alex Jones sent emails containing child porn to Sandy Hook victims' lawyers. Look at New York Times. Alex Jones' legal team is said to have sent child porn in Sandy Hook's case. Alex Jones sent files containing child pornography to lawyers. There's, what kind of psychopath sends child porn to the victims of a shooting? This is, even for Alex Jones, sounds completely insane. Mm-hmm. And it would be if it were at all true. This is you want to talk about media malpractice. What happened here is that Alex Jones is being sued, and they're trying to get the information about how he came up with these conspiracy theories. So the lawyers asked Alex Jones in discovery in the lawsuit to send him all of the files that were on the server. And all of the emails that were on the server because we want to check the emails. So what he did, and this isn't, I don't know how high quality Alex Jones's lawyers are, but he just literally overshared. He turned over everything. So he turned over not over the only things that he was emailing internally, which is obviously the focus of such an investigation, but also the public email addresses and everything that flowed into them. So in the public email addresses, people were emailing InfoWars, most likely trolls trying to screw with InfoWars, sending him child porn to try to get him in trouble in some way.
How do we know that's not a false flag operation?
That's a great point.
How do we know?
I know, that really, because I mean, that really is what should happen here. We should just say it as a false flag. But no, I mean, so basically this guy has a public, public at Infowars.com. People are sending him, it's not him doing it. He gets the emails, and in there are terrible files. He overshares and gives them everything, and then they go to the press and say, Alex Jones just sent us child porn. No, they sent him millions of emails, and in there were some public ones about child porn. The fact that that story is the real story is, it's nothing, right? Like that shouldn't even be in public information.
So this is what the media does, though. And I think it's what the left does as well, is they'll use lies to create a narrative that they want to create. For my argument against the left, I don't need to lie. Like their actions speak for themselves. There's no reason to make up stories. And so now what they've done, and in some respects they're brilliant, they've now forced us to defend Alex Jones in a situation about Sandy Hook.
Right.
Who wants to be on that side of defending him there? But they know what they're doing. I'm telling you, the New York Times and all the other newspapers you mentioned there, they know exactly what they are doing. They are that devious when it comes to this war that's going on.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, and look, they want to make anyone who they perceive as right. And how the guy who blamed George W. Bush for the Twin Towers coming down is a figure on the right, supposedly. I will never know. I'll never understand the answer of how this guy gets, put on us. We're not the way. He got popular because he was saying everything that Democrats believed about 9/11, not us.
Yep.
Remember, they were doing polls at that time that half of Democrats believed that it was an inside job of some sort, 9/11. We were fighting against that.
Right.
Now all of a sudden we're responsible for every crazy thing Alex Jones says. I don't know how that happens, but I mean that is embarrassing. I mean, for the media, it's one thing, and this is, I think, is sort of a foundational problem that we have right now, is that the media makes up their mind whether a person is good or bad. And then everything is judged through that prism. It's happening right now with Donald Trump and Joe Biden. We played a video the other day of one of the campus, I think it was Campus Reform, who went out and said, hey, what do you think about these racist quotes? Who do you think they are, Biden or Trump? And they were all Biden quotes. And of course, everyone said Trump. And, you look at that, and the reason why people believe that is because the media sends a very clear signal. Trump is a racist, and Biden is a Democrat. He's a good guy. So Biden gets a pass for all of his racist comments, where Trump gets hammered every time he says something even mildly questionable. And it's because the media has made that decision behind the scenes. Trump is a bad guy, Biden's okay. So when Biden does it, it's excusable. It's a silly mistake. It's funny. It's Joe being Joe. When Trump says it, there's a diabolical thing at play here.
But even worse than that is they've taken, Trump is a bad guy and Trump is racist, but then they've moved it to, if you support Donald Trump, then you're a racist.
Yes.
Or if you're a gun owner, then you're a racist. Somehow you're an evil, violent person. And so they've taken this and made it from one person, but simply because we all voted for Donald Trump, they turn us into the evil people. And some people, the sad reality is, they believe this stuff, right? The Uber supporters, they'll read whatever their leaders are telling them. I've called it blind liberal zombieism, because that's what they are. They're blind and they follow like zombies. And the media knows that, and they just get them to follow them.
Pat, I want to move on to, you said there's a lot of dehumanizing going on?
Well, yeah, according to Psychology Today, this is frightening. If you're a heterosexual, cisgender person, so if you're not familiar with cisgender, that's you identify as the same gender you were born with. Okay. For instance, I was born a man, and interestingly, I continue to identify as such.
Really?
So when
weird.
you say cisgender, you mean you just believe in science?
Well, yes.
Hurtful. That was hurtful.
That was
Did you hear
hurtful. That was a lot of hate in there.
I'm impressed you were born as a man.
Yeah, I was. I was born as a man.
Right.
But if you're a heterosexual cisgender person who only wants to date heterosexual cisgender people, then you're dehumanizing transgenders, according to Psychology Today. This is, I've said for a while, Okay, it was never about tolerance. It was never about acceptance. It was never even about promoting. We have to actually become what they want us to be. And they want us to be transgendered. Homosexuals. And if you're not, then you're a dehumanizer. It's so ridiculous that something like this would appear in Psychology Today.
Yeah, because I mean,
it's embarrassing.
It used to be, right? Like the whole conversation was around you need to respect others' sexual preference. Well, if your preference happens to be other cisgender individuals, now that's dehumanizing. That's evil and wrong.
Whereas before it was just a preference. I prefer heterosexuality.
Or one of their other arguments, well, this is just the way this person was born.
Right.
Okay, that's just the way that person was born. What about the way I was born?
Yep.
I was born as a heterosexual. I'm not allowed to do that now. I thought we were all born this way. What happened to the Lady Gaga lyrics?
I think people at home are probably looking at this and going, I cannot believe we're having this conversation.
Yes, yeah.
And not just on this program, but nationally. Or
Right.
I mean, we've gotten to a point where we're having these, what one would have deemed as silly conversations at one point, you know? And now we're breaking it down where we're legitimately talking about these special classes of people. And we know that the left loves to create special classes of people and pit them against each other. That's what that's about. It's trying to pit them. I don't have any. If you're transgender, you're transgender, right? Go have at it. Right. Don't pit me against them. And that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah. It's basically, someone sent me the other day a clip from Glenn's book from 2006 or 7, An Inconvenient Book. It was a #1 New York Times bestseller. And in there, we had all these like kind of ridiculous drawings about what the future could be like. And one of them was, it was just a picture, it was a cartoon of a bunch of bathroom doors. And it was like man, woman, like, you know, gay, bisexual, you know, transgender. We had all the crazy ones and they got more and more crazy. And it's like, it's actually where we are now. Like that, it was supposed to be a ridiculous exaggeration to make a point. And now we're already there to the level that if you disagree with 19 bathroom doors, you're the hater. And that's what, 12 years, 13 years? I mean, it happens pretty quick.
I never thought my 10-year-old son would come home from school and say, Dad, do you know there's a girl that can use the boys' room at school?
You've had that?
I'm like, yeah, I've had that.
Wow.
And so I'm like, what? I don't really even get into the conversation with him. But how have we gotten to a point where that, I mean, when I was 10 years old, he's going into 4th grade. These aren't things that we were dealing with.
Yeah, I know. And at that age, I mean, we've talked about this before, but like, it's one thing if you're an adult, as you point out, like you want to do what you want to do, whatever. Like, I don't really care. But it's like when you're trying to change kids and make kids have life-altering decisions that young, that's a real problem. I mean, we went over these stats recently. About 85% of people who identify as transgendered as children grow up and don't have any operations or anything, later grow up and are comfortable in their bodies. It's about 85%. And the vast majority of them wind up being gay or bisexual, but are comfortable in their own bodies, which is crazy because like this woke culture of ours is legitimately just taking a bunch of LGBs and turning them into Ts. Yeah. They're now so woke that the LGBs are not woke enough. We have to go all the way to the Ts. Eventually we get to the Qs and the Is and the As and the 2 pluses and like we keep going down this road. I just don't understand why we can't have a little. Everybody, calm down.
Were you being dismissive of the Two-Spirit people?
I was not. If you accuse me of that again,
wow, I was going to be incredibly offended.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
I do feel like we are at this weird place where, Pat, as you pointed out, this is in Psychology Today, right? So we are at this weird place where do you turn next? Because we've got the doctors who are not just saying this about transgendered people, but they're saying it's okay to push, all sorts of drugs on young people without knowing the repercussions, without knowing the side effects. We're gonna, pump our little people full of all of these hormones because they're confused and they say that they want to be a boy when they're a girl. I mean, where do we turn when the medical community themselves are the ones who are spouting this?
Really dangerous.
Yeah.
It's really dangerous. When just, what was it, 5 years ago, this was considered a mental illness. Transgenderism was a problem. It was gender dysphoria. And Psychology Today and psychologists handled it as a disease. And then all of a sudden now, not only is it not a problem, but it's a problem if you don't want to date them. It's pretty amazing.
And it's like, in reality, we all have the common sense to know these things are ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Even I think on the left they do. I was watching, the New York Times did a thing that they released today, which was, I think it was 18 or 21 questions with every candidate. And so one of the candidates, they were mostly like policy related, but they always throw in a couple of kind of more silly ones. And one of the ones they asked was, when was the last time you were embarrassed? And of course, most of them couldn't really come up with anything interesting, but Elizabeth Warren could. And she said she was talking to an audience, and she said to them, hey, this is what I mean. I mean, we us girls need to stick together. And then the mom said, actually, he's a boy. And she's like, oh my God, I was so embarrassed. Well, why are you embarrassed? If this is the reality, why are you embarrassed? It's because in reality, in real terms, in a quiet moment where she was actually being honest, she would tell you, if she could speak the truth at any moment in her life, this is nonsense, right? Like, we all know it's nonsense, but the idea that they have to come out here and pretend that this is the truth and everyone else who doesn't believe it is a hater is just it's like a foundational problem with our society, that we can't recognize what truth is anymore. And that I don't know how a civilization exists with that standard.
Are you saying that Elizabeth Warren wasn't embarrassed that she admitted to be 1/1024th?
That was not her most embarrassing moment.
She wasn't embarrassed when her husband turned her down for the beer. Oh, you want a beer? Oh, no, you don't want a beer.
She wanted him to have it, too.
There's so many times she should be embarrassed.
Back in a minute. She was pushing that beer on him.
She was.
Yeah.
It was.
I know.
No pressure.
It made him uncomfortable.
It was such a natural moment, though.
Before we get to the Disarmament primary, I want to thank our sponsor, Cruise Through History. There is a really amazing cruise taking place. It is March 2020. You guys have got to go. Mark your calendars. Stu's going to be there. Glenn's going to be there. Rabbi Lappin's going to be there. Bill O'Reilly's going to be there, which I am still, I would be very intimidated to meet Bill O'Reilly.
Oh, really?
So I feel like I kind of want to meet him, but I'm kind of also scared of him.
It's a pussycat.
Yeah, he is.
Is he?
Yeah, absolutely.
And David Barton is also going to be there. You guys are going to go on the Eastern Mediterranean and gorge yourselves with Italian food.
Yes, that's my specialty. If you want to know what the best Italian food on the ship is, you come to me. If you want to know about history and stuff, you go to David Barton and Rabbi Lappin. And Bill O'Reilly and Glenn Beck. I mean, it's going to be great. You're going to get a lot of information. Plus, it's like a cruise. It's not like you're on a boat that's going to history sites, which would be really interesting with that crew in particular. But this is like a legit cruise. So you have like all the cool amenities, all the fun stuff, all the great food, and then added on to that as much as you can take of hearing Glenn blab about history. So it's going to be a really fun situation, and it's a great time. I know a lot of people are getting it for like their dads and like people who never have done anything like this. I think it's a once-in-a-lifetime type of trip.
Yeah, it really is. And, bring your kids, bring your grandkids. When else are you going to get to share that experience with them, learn the roots of Western civilization? You can go to comesailaway.com to learn more. There's several different package options that they will have there that you can choose from, but you definitely want to mark it on your calendars, comesailaway.com for more. All right, Grant, we are in the season.
We are.
Primary
it's a long
season.
one.
Yeah, it is. And there's a lot of people.
Yeah. What, 967 Democrats?
I believe it. I believe it is. I believe it is. So talk to us about this group of candidates.
All right. So I've dubbed it the Disarmament primary. And because every one of these candidates is trying to outdo each other about how to take away our gun rights. And what is so important about this time that we face right now is that now they're openly talking about repeal of the Second Amendment. You have a guy most people never heard of, Eric Swalwell. He's running for president. He's congressman out in California, go figure, that literally talks about jailing gun owners if they don't comply with a confiscation scheme. So as they try to outdo each other for who's going to be the most anti-gun, and the reason they're so anti-gun is because I think they hate gun owners more than they hate the guns themselves, is there's also this underlying push for socialism. And I do not think it is a coincidence that you see this rise in a push for socialism. At the same time, you see a rise in the push for total disarmament. The two go hand in hand. History has shown the two go hand in hand. You just have to go to Venezuela, which is not even that far off history, to see what has happened there. And so people need to be aware that as they go for the Second Amendment, as soon as that one falls, they all come tumbling down.
Yeah. Do you think that the average American is on board with this? Because it blows my mind. I would feel like they would be more aware of the fact that there's Flyover Nation, there's the average American that really isn't in line and really isn't comfortable giving away their gun rights, but they just seem to be doubling down. So am I missing something?
No, and I think Potomac fever is real. I think once you get to Washington, you spend too much time in any state house across the country, that you start to believe your own hype. Gun control has not worked. We know it's about people control, not about gun control. It's not worked. Typically, it's been a failing issue. But these are the same people in Washington that are surrounded by armed security daily. You go to their campaign rallies, they're surrounded by armed security. I don't know about you guys, but I can't afford armed security. So I leave it up to myself, to my own personal protection detail. Yeah. They want to take that right away. I think they are not listening. But what do the best politicians do? They listen. They're very rare, even on the conservative side of things. Politicians who listen are rare. Certainly those on the left are not listening to what America wants, because America does not want their guns taken away from them.
No. Stu, you want to jump in?
I was going to say, if you're going to implement socialism, there's a couple things you need to do, because socialism has the obviously massive problem of eventually you run out of other people's money. So as every socialist...
No, hold on. I thought that things were going to be free.
Yeah, no, yeah.
You're discussing people's money,
it's
but
so weird how much money you can spend on free things. It's very strange. But it's true, and it's like, you've seen this in every example of socialist economies over the years, in which they eventually start running out of money, but they've come through a revolution in which they've said this is going to be the solution, this is what is going to make everybody's life better. So you can't bail on it, you have to take control, and that's how the fist gets more and more iron, right? The two things that you need to get the iron fist and clamp down to keep power, it's always, they cannot be an armed public, and they cannot have a free media. If you can get rid of those two things, you can get away with a lot. You can extend your runway a long time when it comes to socialism, because you're just constantly cracking down. And that's what, the Second Amendment, as you point out, is so key to the success of this country. It's why we have a Constitution that's lasted over 200 years like nobody else on earth. Is because you can't come in and do these things to America. There's 330 million guns out there. There's just no way. It's not only that, people are like, well, if the government wants to come in, they're going to come in with their tanks, and you're not going to be able to beat them. First of all, it's a ridiculous way of thinking about it. But the second thing is, it's never going to be tried. You can't try it when you have a society as well armed as this one, because you'd be wiping out half the country.
Do you remember, it was maybe a month ago, when we were having uprisings in Venezuela, and the government ran over the protesters with vehicles. They ran over them. The reason they're free to run over the people in their vehicles is because the people have been disarmed. That would not happen in America today. And then you go to New Zealand now, they've already said, all right, well, we're going to confiscate all the guns. And you got the head of law enforcement in New Zealand saying, well, we don't have a gun registry, so we don't know where all the guns are to go confiscate them. We need a gun registry. And I've been warned about this. So many people have been warning about this, that's what a gun registry is about. When you go down, and every single member of the disarmament primary has a plan for an ultimate gun registry. So the government knows where the guns are, that to the point where it gets tyrannical and it wants to go round up all the firearms, now you've got a list. If you don't have a list, you can't round up all the guns. And I promise you, our founding fathers never wanted the government to have a list of who was armed and who wasn't.
Yeah. Pat, quick last word.
It's amazing to me how fast this is morphed, too, because it used to be, within the last year or two, Democrats always said, oh, look, I love the Second Amendment as much as you do. It's just that we need common sense gun reform. They're kind of dropping that now. The mask is sort of coming off, and they're just saying, no, the Second Amendment doesn't work for us. It's too dangerous. It's too scary. And so now Americans have to make a choice. We have to make a choice now. And it's a pretty clear choice this time.
Yeah. Amen. All right. Back in a minute.
Was that a prayer? Yeah, she said.
All right, before we go, Grant, tell everyone where they can find you.
All right, NRATV.com. We do a show top of every hour from 8 to noon Central Time. But Apple TV, Chromecast, Roku, all of those outlets have NRATV on them. And we've got a lot of programming there, and I urge people to check it out.
And your social media for those of you
Stinchfield 1776.
Okay. Huh.
You like that?
Just a random.
I just came up with that number out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Stinchfield 1776. No, Stinchfield's too long with Grant on it. Twitter doesn't give me Grant Stinchfield.
All right. Well, we are going into overtime next. Make sure you don't miss it. You got to go to blazetv.com. Use promo code NEWS for $10 off, and we will see you there.